Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Rabbit Hole. This is Kat Mendoza, your host, and in this episode we're gonna be having a new guest that's going to be sharing a very similar topic than the one that we just had in the previous episode that we talked about codependency and toxic relationships. And tonight we have Cindy Plehn. Plehn, is that how we pronounce her name? Plehn? Who, she is the founder, the owner of where we are right now, which it's called the Angel House. And she's going to be sharing with us not just what the Angel House means to her and to everybody that has been here, but what codependency relationships in her life, all the experiences that she has had in her life romantically and in so many other different ways has taken her, and what she's doing now that she found her purpose and her goal to help other people because of the experiences that she has been through. The topic tonight is gonna be based and called "Why Do Good Girls Choose Bad Boys?" Hi Cindy, how are you?
Hi Kat, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm so happy how it worked out. We're finally here. We've been trying to do this for a long time, but time doesn't exist. So tell me why do good girls choose bad boys? Is this your question? Do you know the answer? What's going on?
It's a question that I contemplated early in my life because I chose a difficult man to be married to and have a baby with, and it led me down a path that was a big life lesson for me. So at the time I was trying to change him into who I thought he should be, and he'd be happier in life, but that didn't work out so well.
So what do you say about like choosing a guy? Do you should, like, if you see that there's a guy that you like, let's say in your perspective or your experience, you wanted to change him because you fell in love with maybe the idea of who you wanted him to be, or you saw that he had that potential?
Definitely, I thought in order to be happy, it had to be my way, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't honor that he was on his own journey. Mm-hmm. I thought if he could be the way I thought he should be, then he'd be happy, and he wasn't a happy person.
And that's related to codependency, right?
Absolutely. So I valued him and his desires and wants more than I valued myself. I worked my bones. I worked myself to death and gave everything and more to him because I thought that would make him love me, and it didn't. I mean, he drove a brand new Z28 Camaro that I bought, and I drove like a 1968 Ford Fairlane that was falling apart with gun holes in the door because he wanted what he wanted, and
you will do it. So
and the windows wouldn't even roll up, so the cats in the neighborhood peed in the car, and it smelled horrible. Oh my God, I can't believe that. I mean, that's how I felt of myself. I didn't care about me. It didn't matter.
And he didn't care about you either.
And he didn't really either.
So he was using you, and it was very clear. And how did your family take on? I mean, because you married him,
right? And so I had a child with him. But totally, my family just kind of stayed away. They told me, you're making a big mistake, and I'm like, you don't know him. And you're like, he's a great guy, I was young, though. I was only like 20 years old.
Whatever it is, why was he the bad boy? Why were you the good girl?
I was the good girl. I was the girl. I tried to please my parents. I made straight A's. I was always the perfect kid. I never caused any issues in my teenage years or anything like that. I always did everything right.
Perfect, yeah.
And I went away to college, and so I was only 18, and I did all the things my parents told me not to do. And I was with another guy that was a decent guy, and they loved him, but I was bored. I was so bored. That wasn't fun to me, right? And I didn't have a chemical connection with that guy either. He didn't do anything for me, But when I saw my first husband, Brian, I melted. There was this magnet that drew me to him.
Brian is the bad boy.
Yeah, I didn't even know why I wanted to be with him, but I was drawn to him. And to me, now looking back on it, it must have been a past life or karmic connection. For some reason, there was like a magnetism that I was drawn to him. I couldn't not be with him. I knew he wasn't good for me, but I didn't care. I thought I could change him. I thought I had the power to change him. If I treated him well and loved him and showed him a good life, then he would be a good person, but he really wasn't. He was a very toxic person, for sure. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He didn't work. He was beautiful. I mean, he was drop dead gorgeous. I couldn't believe that he wanted to be with somebody like me. This is how I truly felt. Like, oh my God, he wants to be with me? But I had no idea. And I went to nursing school, graduated. I worked full time and more to try to support us in
you were doing everything.
He wanted
you were doing
be.
everything.
Yeah, and he did nothing. He sat at home and got drunk. He did nothing.
And you would go ahead
sold drugs at our house when I wasn't home.
And you knew all of this.
Oh yeah, I didn't care.
You loved him.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I didn't go around my family because I knew that they weren't going to go along with this. And so I just kind of separated. I felt like I was in prison. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't, allowed to do anything. But I was okay with that because he was drop dead gorgeous. And for some reason, there was just this attraction. I was with him for 10 years.
So sexually, you guys were like...
I was young, So
how old were you?
I was like 20. So I hadn't really experienced much in the way of sex.
But he gave you...
So it was more like, I don't know, I'd never really had an intense physical relationship that I was very chemically drawn to him. I'd never had that before. And I think I wanted to be a mother, I wanted a baby.
You wanted a family.
I wanted a life, and I thought it didn't matter what he was like. Boy, was I wrong.
Tell us about what happened. By the way, she wrote a book. She's an author of Recover. So this is the story where it starts.
So we had a son together, and the relationship really went downhill after that. He was very jealous of me spending any time with the baby, and started becoming physically violent. And I didn't know what to do. I'd never been around that before in my life. And I was deathly afraid to tell anybody because he said, if you do, I'll kill you. You'll be sorry, is what his words were. You'll be really sorry. And so nobody was allowed to come to the house. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere except for just to work. And it was really, really scary.
How old was he? What was your son at the time?
So he was probably 2. And one time I came home from work and... he was mad and he was passed out, so I slept on the couch. And in the morning, my son came in, Mommy, Daddy's really mad at you, he said. He broke your bike and he put cigarettes in the fish tank. And I was like, oh no, I'm in big trouble now. And he goes, come here, I'll show it to you. And I said, no, I don't want to see it. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, if this is what's going on with my kid, our kid, I got to get out of here. I'm going to be dead. And so I made arrangements to leave, and
without him knowing,
because he said he would hurt me.
So you were living in this fearful,
definitely,
and you did not see this until after you had the kid.
Right. I mean, he was he would have anger moments.
But you never felt that I have to leave.
No,
you never felt that way.
He never got physically violent before, and it was. It progressed so much where he would throw toys at me and things like that. Like I would be sleeping on the couch and he would just throw one of those metal Tonka toys at my head. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta get out of this place. Plus, he was paranoid because he was on drugs. So he had a gun in his hand at all times, and he would perch at every window, walk all around the house, looking out the window. So you're living in this house with this person that... He was crazy.
And then you have this kid.
I know,
and you were like, can you imagine how scary that must be? Whoa.
And I couldn't tell anybody,
that's like a toxic relationship.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I left him.
You couldn't tell anybody.
No. So I left him, and I told my family, I had to get away or I was going to be dead. And they're like, oh, we're so glad that you're gone. And,
And they helped you.
They helped me some, yeah. But then, he fought me in court because he wanted me to pay him money. So he fought for custody. And he was a good-looking guy, and we had a woman judge. So we were in court 7 different times, and she gave him joint custody because he was like, she's crazy, and I'm the one that's always taking care of the kid. And I mean, he just lied.
So there was there was so much.
Awful. It was awful.
And he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
He always
and
did.
Then, so the day...
A manipulator.
He was very charismatic, and, he was like a Jekyll and Hyde. He would be a totally different person in front of other people. So,
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really, really
How
scary.
many of you girls that are listening to this can relate to something similar? I'm sure they can.
I know.
Okay, so...
Well, anyway, it progressed, and eventually I made an appeal to the judge. I can't do this joint custody. It's not going to work. So I appealed for sole custody, and the next day he kidnapped him. He took him, and nobody knew where he was, and he just disappeared. And he, our son was 4 years old.
And that's what this book is about. The book's about the dad kidnapping their own son.
And this was in 1988, so it was before people knew that most of the kidnappings were from a divorced relationship, right? A non-custodial parent, takes the child. This happens. That's why now we have all the laws, where, there's an Amber Alert. There was none of that back then. In fact, the police told me, well, you know where he is. He's with his dad.
But that's like...
But I said, yeah, but I don't know if he's going to watch him, and I don't know if he's going to have a gun on the table, and, he'll pick it up. He's a 4-year-old kid.
And he's not letting you see him.
No, I had no idea where they were.
So that is kidnapping.
Yeah, so it was kidnapping. So anyway, he was gone for 6.5 months, and this book is, I wrote letters to him, knowing that I wasn't going to ever show him these letters, my son anyway. But I wrote them because I wanted to express my feelings, and then I wrote the book about how come I ended up with a guy like this. I mean, why? What's wrong with me that I would choose somebody like this? So I really searched my soul. I did some therapy, and he ended up, I never saw him again after Zach was found. He did go to jail for 3 days. He was convicted of a felony, but that was dropped after probation. But anyway, he ended up dying of alcoholism in his 40s, but I never saw him again, neither did Zach, after he was found. He died in his 40s, and his mother called my father and said, he died. And I was so relieved, because I still at that time
thought scared
he would find me and hurt me. So what a relief that was. But that also started a different journey, because then now my son is half of his father, right? So he has half of those genes. He's a wonderful kid, but he's not a kid anymore. He's 35 now. But I was very codependent with him.
So you pass it on.
I did.
You
I let him do anything he wanted to do. Anything he wanted, I let him do.
So you didn't learn the lesson in a way, right? I mean, mostly because you felt like so guilty. You probably felt guilty that he was like, you're like, I need to give you everything now. So
because I had it to give, and he wanted it, and it made me feel good, right? But it didn't help him grow. It didn't help him be on his own journey. I took all his consequences away, thinking I was helping him, but actually it was really hurting him. So about 5 years ago, I found Codependence No More. And so I went to that group, and
what made you go through that?
What made me do it is I did an intervention on my son, because he was a chronic THC user. He didn't drink alcohol. He just smoked weed 24/7, and he really didn't work much. He's an artist, so he didn't support himself. I support him being an artist, but you got to support yourself, right? Yeah. And I felt like that was his issue. So I brought an interventionist in, and during the intervention, he told me, eye to eye, he's like, Mom, this is not my problem. This is you. You're the one that has the problem. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. So I'm done. You're on your own. So I walked away, and he was forced to take care of himself, and I had been supporting him to live in Hawaii with his family. And I just said, I'm not going to pay for another thing again. and I walked away, and I went to codependent no more.
And it was hard. It's
was
like
so hard.
Codependency of this is like it could be like with your sons. It could be not just romantically. It could be there's so many different ways, and you experience it romantically, then with your own son, until you had to look for help.
The characteristic that I had that was most predominant was that I didn't value who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I only valued him in his life. I did everything to make him have a happy life with no consequences, and I thought that would make him happy. But honestly, it didn't. He wasn't supporting himself. He didn't feel very good about himself. He had 2 kids, and he wasn't financially secure at all, but he lived in a really nice house in Hawaii.
Because you were paying for everything.
Because I paid for everything. But I was devastated, like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life now? This is crazy.
You spent your whole life looking for him, finding him, then doing everything for him, that you kind of forgot about yourself.
I did. I didn't have any value on myself. I mean, I felt like I was nothing. I was not valuable at all. I really didn't have the ability to speak up for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I found my voice. It took me a whole year to talk in a meeting. I was so scared to say anything. All I could do was cry. And I'd hear other people talk, and they just kept saying, keep coming back, it works. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to help me. This is kind of dumb. It's not really doing anything for me. But over time, it did, actually.
It took some time.
It just took a long time. And what I have learned, so I work in the medical profession. Mm-hmm. What I have learned is so fascinating. We have chemicals that are released in our brain.
Yes, I want to hear this.
Okay, so we have chemicals that are released in our brain when we have difficulties, right? Like trauma and negative thoughts. Chemicals are released in our brain that actually impair the limbic part of our brain from experiencing emotions. We're not able to feel our feelings. We can't feel sadness. We don't even know what that is. We can't feel, like me, I only allowed myself to know what love is, or to know what happiness is. But if I was sad or mad, I can tell you that I wasn't mad ever in my whole life. Even when I had somebody like that do these things to me.
You were not.
I was not angry. I felt sorry for him. I felt like, oh, he's sick. I need to help him. But obviously I had some anger.
Your brain literally does not connect or make any connections with the neurotransmitters into any of these emotions that you have been running away from.
So when we don't feel our feelings, which all of us know what that is, right? You don't want to feel pain. You don't want to feel anger. Our brain shuts down, right? And there's a track in our brain from the behavior. There is a transmitter, neurotransmission tract, because there's a brain wave, right, with every behavior. So they get deeper and deeper, and what's released in our brain is chemicals like for fight or flight. So that's adrenaline, that's cortisol, all the stress hormones. And those pathways in our brain are very deeply ingrained to avoid pain at all costs, or avoid being angry at all costs. And so we get addicted to those chemicals of therapy, and or being a 12-step program, or some kind of a new experience to be able to feel our feelings.
You don't know how to do it because your brain hasn't.
Our brain is like, the pathways aren't there, so it feels super uncomfortable. And
hard.
It's very, very
and
hard.
It's like,
and
what?
It doesn't feel right. Okay? Yeah. But when we do express anger and or pain, we feel the pain, then chemicals of serotonin and melatonin and other chemicals, natural endorphins, oxytocin, all those chemicals are released in our brain, and it actually helps us to age less.
How long does that take for it? Like, for example, when you're gonna start something new, how long? Like living a relationship, right? Like living How long?
Everybody is different, okay?
Oh, God.
Because we all can only handle things, in certain time. But it does take time. For me, it took a good year before I could even speak up for myself. And before I could verbalize to someone else, because I didn't feel like other people were safe to tell anything, especially my deepest, darkest secrets. So it was a whole year, and it felt very, very uncomfortable.
For the whole year?
Yeah.
And would you ever feel like going back to your same...
Oh, yeah, that feels comfortable. And my body is craving those adrenaline
and this happens
cortisol.
in anything. I mean, it's like a drug. It's like everything. Alcohol, like,
yeah.
like
we're
whatever.
addicted to it. We're actually addicted to it.
To
So and we don't have a very big limbic area in our brain, that's the middle of our brain, that makes the chemicals that are the oxytocin, and because it's in our hypothalamus and our limbic brain, the emotional center. We don't even making chemicals, biochemicals,
okay.
And experiencing emotions. But that's why it takes time, and it's really, really hard. It doesn't feel comfortable. It feels very uncomfortable. But the more you do it, the deeper the new tracks are. The new pathways get deeper and deeper. So even if you don't want to, you have to keep making yourself do it.
Oh, that's tough. It's so hard.
Really, really hard, but it's so worth it, because it's better than you could ever dream it would be. And part of that 12-step program is learning what your higher power is. It doesn't have to be God, but it's something greater than you are. And for me, I was already on a path of spirituality.
Yeah, tell us about
before that. Before I went to codependency.
Okay, so it started. So how did your spiritual journey kind of started? I mean, was it the kid?
I was going to a church, and it was a fundamentalist Christian church, and I just felt like deep in my heart they were like more into it for the money, and there was some corruption, and I was like, I felt a really deep connection to God, what I felt was God, but there were so many things about it that didn't work for me. I didn't feel like it was right. So I just searched my soul. I prayed a lot and said, what's the answer? What's right? And for 6 months, I really got nothing. And I was pointed into the direction of a psychic. And if you are aware of anything, like the fundamentalist religions say that, psychics and all of that stuff are just, they're the devil. And I was thinking, like, how can this be right? That just doesn't fit. But I was open to it. And so I started reading more about things, and I was like, wow. And then I started going to some conferences and studying about healing energy.
You felt connected to it.
I felt really connected to the angels. Really connected to the angels. And I mean, I grew up Catholic, so it's pretty prominent in the Catholic religion anyway. But I felt connected to angels, and like my grandmother that had passed over, I felt a connection. I could feel her sometimes guiding me. And so, and I had some pretty intense experiences. One time when I was 18, it's the first time I ever did any kind of a drug. And I had a hallucination that was unbelievable. My parents actually took me to the emergency room. I lost consciousness for like 5 hours.
And you have no idea what was it that you took?
I don't. I think it was, it was somebody spiked me, I smoked some pot, but there was probably LSD.
LSD or
somebody told me, it was in the 70s, so somebody told me it was probably angel dust. And I'm like,
angel dust!
I love it. So that's part of the PCP family or LSD family, right?
Yeah.
It probably was. It was a hallucinatory
But it was a positive
drug.
kind of experience for you.
It was so crazy. I had this vision, and I was in the vastness of nothing. It looked like I was out in outer space. And there were shoots of light coming through, right? And this was in 77. So it was well before the telescope, Hubble telescope, and all that. So I saw this big, huge light, looked like a flat planet, but it was really bright around the edge, and it was copper. It was glowing, and it was kind of going down really, really slow, like in the vastness. And I was an energetic spirit. I could shoot over really fast, way over there and way over there, and look at it from all different angles. And everything made perfect sense. It was like I was in nirvana. I knew everything. All knowledge made sense. It was very loving and peaceful, and words don't describe it.
And you remember it. I mean,
I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was when I was 18 years old, and I'm 62 years old right now. So it's crazy. Like, it just was so deeply ingrained. Well, I heard a voice said, Cindy, you have to go back. And I said, no, I don't want to go back. I love it here. And the voice told me, you haven't had your son yet. You have to go back. Oh, God. So then I opened my eyes, and I was in the emergency room. They're all like, we know you can talk. Open your eyes. I was just like, oh my God.
And this is before you became a nurse. I mean, now everything connected.
No, I wasn't a nurse. So I had my son when I was 26. So I knew I would have a son. I knew I would only have one child. So I always have had this intuitive, just knowing. Yeah, I knew it.
That connection to
when
spirit.
When Zach was gone, when my son was missing, I knew I would get him back. I knew it. But I didn't know when. And it's funny because in my mind, after the 6 months, I finally had a talk with God, and I said, if I don't see him until I'm in heaven with him, that's okay. And the next day he was found. And this was like in a prayer.
When you let it go.
I surrendered. I let it go. And he was found the next day. And we had no clues the whole rest of the time. None. Just all of a sudden. So this is it. You got to learn to trust. This is what I couldn't do very well. I tried to control my own life, right?
You became like independent. You became independent to try to control. And
I had to have faith that it's going to work out better than I could ever think of. And I had to trust. And so, like, what's my life purpose here? I am married. I've been married for 27 years. Have a pretty independent marriage.
I want to talk about that. I really want to talk about that because, you know, let's just kind of close the first kind of topic. So, you know, Cindy went through this marriage that was very toxic in the beginning. She had this kid. She went through all this pain as a mother. Imagine being a mother and not having your son. And then we took her to write this book and to understand herself, you know, why, you know, the connection of codependency, why good girls choose bad boys. And she got to understand herself and actually, you know, look for help, and really connected all the different parts of her brain and really taught her brain to think very different, and also connected to the spiritual side of it, which took her to her spiritual awakening, you know, your spiritual journey, and now seeing all these experiences that were very dark and stuff into what she's gonna be talking about very soon. But before we talk about that, now you got into this other marriage, which was very different. How was getting into another marriage after? How long ago from the first marriage did you marry your present marriage?
I left my first husband, and I wanted no part of any man.
Yeah.
For 4 years.
4 years.
And somebody introduced us, and I was like, oh my God, I can't
You were so scared. I mean,
yeah, I was really scared. I didn't trust him, but he's a wonderful man, and I feel like I'm very blessed.
And how did you guys were able to? You see that God gave you the universe gave you something back.
It's so true.
Because
so
now you're using it and sharing it.
The interesting part is, I went to a psychic when my son was missing, and the psychic told me, this was 2 years before I actually met my husband, and I had no intention of being with another man, believe me. And she said, I see you being married again. And I said, really? She said, no, really, this is a good guy. You're with him for a very long time. He's going to be like a father figure to your dad. You're going to get your son back very soon. This was in October. I didn't get him back till March. But she described what my husband looked like. She said his name starts with a J, and his name is John. And you're going to meet him at a special occasion, a holiday. It was actually the 2-year anniversary of my son's return, so like the most important day ever.
Number 2
to me, right? And yeah, amazing. And I think the difference between this relationship and my last, marriage was he respects who I am for who I am, even if we don't agree.
You don't have to agree with it.
You don't have to agree.
And you didn't feel like you had a codependency relationship with him in the beginning? Like, there was never there? No. Like, they don't live together, I mean, at this moment, right? You guys...
No. So we have 2 separate households.
We
are together when we want to be together. He has his own place in another state, and
You're here,
we're monogamous. We don't have other people that we hang out with. And we have friends, but not romantically.
Yeah.
And
you guys trust, and I mean, to come from what you went through to be in something like where you are now, I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
You had to do a lot of different.
Oh yeah.
Change your whole brain for that. That's,
But it was a totally different, respectful person. I think it's a difference. I wasn't trying to make him be somebody different.
You accepted him, and he accepted you, and
exactly.
it wasn't like I need you to like. It was like I want to be with you.
And I was in my 30s by the time I met him.
You had already,
So I was more experienced in life, and and he just accepted me for who I was, who I am, and still to this day. I mean, I can say that I adore him as much or more than I did when I first met him. And I think having the separate residences helps us to be able to maintain a pretty intense relationship.
Right?
Yeah.
And I truly, I can believe that, sometimes that's what you need, and then when you guys see each other, it's like, whoa, more intense.
It's like a honeymoon for 27 years.
That's more beautiful. If anybody should try that, I think we all should try that. So now tell us about what is the whole goal idea you think has you started your spiritual journey. What do you think the whole purpose of everything that you went through with codependency and all of the pain and choosing the wrong guy? What is the whole point of that now? How do you using that into your life now?
I had to really search my soul for what my purpose in life is, and I have come up with, and this has kind of progressively been revealing itself to me over the past 20 years, believe it or not. I bought my house here about 20 years ago, and when I found this house, I was like, oh my God, this is the house. And what I envisioned for this house is that it's a safe place for people to come. I knew that I would have people come and rent rooms or share the house with me, and grow into who they are. Have it be a safe place to be able to be who they are and, learn what they are and what their purpose is in life, and so allow them to figure out who they are. I wanted it to be kind of like a nest for people to come.
That's how I feel. I feel like I'm in a nest.
And I know most everyone that has ever come here, the energy in this house is really unbelievable, and it's the outside garden and the area too. But I've had groups here that I've done meditation with, and a lot of discussions, and some gatherings, and I really have been led, I feel like, by the angels. I felt like the house is the angel house. This is what I feel.
It is the angel house.
Yeah, I can really feel the presence of that higher power, that the power greater than me. Something divine is here. There is no question. It's very intense. And it just feels safe. I love nature, so there's lots of plants and trees. And
it's gorgeous. And
I have a pond with some fish and lots of animals. And believe it or not, the cats and dogs get along. I mean, who knew,
There's so many cats and dogs here.
But anyway, so it's that has been my... I feel like this is my life purpose, to provide a space, a safe space for, transition, for people to grow into who they are. Yeah. And then, if they choose to stay, fine. And if not, just fly off, and be who they're going to be. And so it's nice to have you, Kat, and others. It's super fun.
No, honestly, from my own experience, I've been here in the Angel House for about 3 months only? 3 months, yeah. And in the 3 months, it feels like 10 years of growth and let me tell you, you are doing your purpose, because that's exactly what you said. It's how I feel like coming here, being here. It's truly like magical place. Even the people that maybe are not not into believing in anything like that, like it's just like, okay, like it's just
Something's different
something
here.
is, you know, and I'm very blessed, and I'm very blessed to be here, part of this, and I'm very thankful. And I'm so happy that you're able to, you know, share your whole purpose and make all of these craziness, 'cause that's what life is about, right? We all have something. We all have been through something. It's not less or like higher of what we go through, but it's about how we transform all of that, the work that we have to put in to be able to transform it and make something bigger to share with other people that are maybe going through it.
Yeah, totally. To share it just helps others have some you know, feel the love around it.
They're not
have some
alone.
encouragement. Yeah,
Like,
but
look
they're
at
not
you
alone.
another time that you really could not say anything to anybody. You thought it was like,
No, I was afraid.
you thought you were alone, and
Yeah.
probably not, right? But in that moment so it's like things have changed now, right? Times have changed, and I think that it's important for everybody that may be going through something, you know, similar or whatever it is, just codependency, or you feeling like you are trapped or you cannot live. You know, tell us about, you know, maybe some of the choices or places that people can go to have do the 12 step or
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know,
So many.
there's the private therapists, and even just reaching out to another person,
Yeah.
you know, a trusted friend
Yeah.
or a family member. I mean, sometimes you feel like it's not safe to do that, but if you can just open up, you would be surprised that you're not alone.
yeah.
And I think the general feeling in others is, I want to be there for you, you know. But you know who you could trust and not trust too.
But talk, say it, speak
Yeah.
out. Don't
Yeah.
keep it inside.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you need professional help, of course, you know, search out for that. But the first step, I think, is sharing it with another person.
Yeah.
And the 12-step program worked for me, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I think this is the value. The one thing, one spiritual, one of the goals in 12-step program is to honor each of us as being different, and we have our own wants and needs, and not trying to tell someone how they need to be.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I
That's
love
cool.
that about it.
Yeah.
Because we're all different. You know, what works for me may not
Trust
work
it.
for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I want to honor your journey
Yeah.
as much as I'm honoring my journey.
Yeah.
And some days you're going to have a good day, and some days you're going to have a hard day.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Give it to yourself. You know, let yourself feel sad or mad or, you know.
Emotional. That's how I felt
yeah.
today. I was like, I want to just be with
Allow it. Allow it.
Because
if we
you're always running
don't-
away from it.
Totally.
And, you know, you gotta feel it.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, we're gonna be finishing up soon, but before we do, is there anything else that you want to express, say, ask to complete your life purpose right now?
I am just so happy that things are turning out how they are. I couldn't have asked for it to be any better than what it is, and I feel really blessed that the people that are here because I know that it's just meant to be. And this is one thing, I do rent rooms out in my house, and you know, I always ask the angels to bring the people that need to come, and I feel like that's really honored. So I try to be patient, you know, and not have it be, it might be hard financially for a couple months, but that's just the way, I believe that what's meant to happen is going to happen. And so I'm not living in fear. I really have a lot of trust and belief that it's going to be okay. And sometimes I don't believe it, but I know it. You know, even so, I
you
still
just feel
know
it, like, so,
So,
Yeah,
of
that's the
course I
best.
have bad days too, just like everybody else,
Yeah.
but I don't beat myself up about it.
You just
I let myself have a bad day, and I pick myself up, and I carry on, do the best I can do, or I might stay in bed for a few hours or day. But I don't beat myself up about it. Pardon me, I just let myself be who I am.
Yeah.
And honor other people, but honor myself first.
Honor yourself first.
That was the hardest lesson for me to learn, and also to promote, you know, with
Yeah.
others. So, anyway, thanks for having me.
Yay! So don't forget, always honor yourself first. Put yourself first, because, you know, once you're good, once you feel that, then you can give water to the other people. And that's, I think that's something that all of us go through. Thank you so much. The last question that I always ask everyone here in the podcast that I want to ask you now is, Cindy, where does time go?
It's interesting because I'm studying about this right now.
Oh.
So I'm learning about the present moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the present moment is actually a connection with the spirit, the spiritual field of energy.
Okay.
And there is no time. There's no past. There's no future. That's only present. So I think time is in our mind, and it's on this earth school. It's in this earth plane. There is no such thing as time in heaven and or the outer world, the other side, so they say. So yeah, I think time is in our mind. It's
So time doesn't exist?
No.
That's what I always also say. And nobody believes me. Time does not exist. I love it. Thank you so much.
It's only here on earth.
It's only here on earth. And by the way, she is me in the future. That's what I always say. So thank you, everybody. Make sure you share, like, comment, and just share it with somebody that you think it will benefit. And I will see you guys later. Bye bye.
Best days pass us by, and most long for a place that they never find. I'm afraid I wake up when I die, and it is too late to climb any mountain. Time is of the essence, the blood running through our core. It's best to not feel sorry when it's over. I will be the greatest that you've ever seen before, and I'll stay eternal. My luck's run out. When things don't go to plan, I kinda lose my mind. I hope it's real, this life comes around. Just keep your faith and search for the fountain. Time is of the essence, the blood running through our core. It's best to not feel sorry when it's over. Will be the greatest that you've ever seen before, and I'll stay eternal. Eternal.